Hi, thanks for joining me in the garden today. As you can see, spring is finally here in magnificent Minnesota, and we are scrambling to catch up, seeing as we're now 3 weeks behind. Today we're going to do a little bit of cleaning up in the garden, and one of my most asked questions is, Diane, how do you know when and how to prune your hydrangea shrubs? I have several of them in my yard, and we're going to get to that just shortly here. So let me go get my pruning shears and we will get over and do some trimming on these hydrangeas. This is a Hydrangea paniculata. It is pink diamonds is the common name of it. Paniculata is the hydrangea that gets the large cone-shaped blooms. As you can see, this one has periodic blossoms that open. It's very beautiful. It turns that beautiful red color as the blossoms mature. This is in my perennial garden along with every other shrubbery that I have. So I personally keep it trimmed up off the ground a little bit more, just so that my perennials that are coming up around the base have a little bit room to spread. So you'll notice that I remove the branches lower on the shrub than you need to. If you want your shrub to have more foliage all the way down to the ground and bloom all the way around like a full shrub, then you wouldn't remove the branches on the bottom. However, I'm looking for something that's a little more elevated in a shrubbery, not a tree. So here we are. We have a Hydrangea paniculata. You can see that I've already done some trimming on here. I did this in the fall because the flowers are so awesome for drying and using in my holiday arrangements. So that's why you'll notice that it has been nipped back. It's not from the deer, it actually is from a crazy gardener. In any pruning, when you're looking at the plant, you'll see that there are branches that mosey along and move on to where they're not necessarily supposed to be. This one is crossing another branch and rubbing, and in time will cause injury to the bark, leaving an opening for insects, as we talked about when we were trimming up the crabapple tree in my last segment. So I prefer to keep this open a little bit more. First thing I'm going to do is remove weak branches that are growing inside and getting kind of caught up in here. I'm just going to take that off right there. This one is kind of weak, so I'm just going to go all the way back. You'll notice right here there's a little bud. That's going to be another branch this year. As the plant grows, it's going to send this up and make another branch. I really don't want a branch growing this way. I'm going to come right underneath that bud and remove it. I now limit the amount of growth that's going to come in towards the center of the plant and concentrate or focus my efforts on having a nice round canopy along the outside of the plant. Quickly go through and remove the weak and small branches. And because these plants get so high, I like to bring them down a little bit. Here again, when you look, you notice that there are little buds. And by the way, in France, they call this cottons. With an angle cut just above it, remove the top of the branch. We have a good healthy quarter inch in between the cut and the bud. And that also gives it a little bit of support as the new branches grow out. I'll keep an eye on them. Anything that's growing up towards the center, I'll remove. And this extra little nub here is going to keep it a little bit stronger. So I'm just going to go around. Here's a broken branch. I'm just going to take that off. Another weak branch, remove that. And keep the shape and the height uniformed. Another weak branching. They're not going to produce flowers, these weak branches, and if they do, the flowers are going to droop, and you'll end up having an incident like this, where the branch could not support the flowers that was produced, and it started drooping down, and then as it strengthened in its growth phase, started growing back up again. Not really very attractive, but a nice example of how these plants correct themselves as they strengthen. I'm going to take a few more cuts here, get this all cleaned up, and then I'll come back and show you how great it looks after it's done. The amount of stems that are on this plant are going to produce 3 times the amount of flowers just from the new growth that's going to come out. And it's going to be on sturdy, hard stems that are going to be able to support the large, luscious blooms. So this one is finished. Let's move on to our next subject over on the other side of the garden. Come join me. Here we have Hydrangea arborescens, also known as Annabelle hydrangea. Some people call them lace caps, some call them mop tops. They grow very easily in our zone 4 climate, and very easy to take care of. I've noticed that a lot of people in the neighborhood don't shear back their hydrangea Annabelle, but I would strongly suggest you do it, and it's so simple. 2 methods of doing it, either with a pruning shears or a hedging shears. So let's take a look at both methods. I want to take a look at the bottom of the plant, better known as the crown. Try to get some of the debris away from there, just to avoid rot around the bottom. And the same thing when you're applying mulch around your shrubs, just a tip. Try to stay away from the actual crown of the plant a little bit, just to avoid some of the mold and mildew issues that could arise if you backfill over your shrub crown. You notice that some of these, like this one, was definitely dead, and one of the main clues that it's dead is the stem is hollow. So and I look inside this one. This is a treat. There is a insect living inside of here, perhaps a mason bee or another native pollinator. So I'm just going to leave this lay right here. I'm not going to remove it so that that pollinator can come out and help pollinate my flowers. So some of these you're going to notice are very flimsy. If you move them and they crack, definitely take them off. We get into a sturdier stem, and you're going to notice here is the new buds. These are the new branches. They're growing, baby, they're growing. But I really don't want them to be that high. And by having the branches up this high, they're a little weaker and topple over easier. A lot of people, I'm sure, have noticed that their Annabelles in a heavy storm will fall over. So I'm going to come back down to this eye right here. I'm going to come up about a 1/2 inch to 3/4 inches and cut that off. Here's another one that's hollow, but there's no bug in there. I'm just going to take that out and I'll throw that one away. Coming back down, I'd like them kept a little shorter. This one has too much weak on it. It looks like a slingshot, but these are weak. I'm going to take off these weak, dead branches and cut back the healthy ones to a reasonable height. You see it gets very tight in here. If you have not pruned your Annabelle in some time, often you'll be able to just go in with your hands and jiggle, and the broken or old dead stems will come right out. Finish a couple more finishing touches on this. I personally get a lot of satisfaction out of pruning. It's just something about getting in there and shaping the shrub and noticing how it looks, finding little visitors that are living in a hollow stem in your garden. It's pretty cool. Now we're going to go on to the lazy man's way of trimming hydrangeas. For this method, the lazy man method, I'm just going to use a hedging shears. I'm going to come in and very indiscreetly just cut it back. There really isn't a rhyme or reason. I'm just getting it down to a certain height. I'm not being as cautious about how much space there is between the cut and the new shoots that will be coming out. Here I've got, that's quite a bit there, but when you have a huge hedge of lace cap hydrangea or Annabelle hydrangea, it's just so much more time effective just to cut it back with the hedging shears. All that's left is cleanup. I would also get in here, as I did in the first portion that I trimmed with the hand pruners, and remove the dead leaves and debris that have collected around the crown of the plant to avoid the rotting process. Other than that, while I'm cleaning out those leaves, I'll just look for a few of the dead sticks that I will also remove. So here we have it. Gotten a lot of that debris cleaned out of the crown of the plant. Cut it back. The lazy man method, which works. I would just suggest cutting it back so that the new stems are anywhere from 12 to 18 inches tall. And if you were to desire to divide this plant, as you notice, there are voids in here. Get a nice sharp shovel, lift up chunks of these plants. They pull out actually pretty easily, and share it with your friend, because this plant, as you can tell, spreads. So now we're going to go over to the Hydrangea macrophylla, and this is the one that we're going to talk about probably the most. We get the most questions because it's one of the newer hydrangeas on the market. Some of you know of it as Endless Summer, and I have one over on the other side of the garden, which is actually Twist and Shout, but we will go over and prune that so you can get an idea of what to do there. Come with me. Hydrangea macrophylla is one of the only hydrangeas that you can change the color of the blossom by adjusting the pH of the soil. A soil with a more acidic pH, the blooms will be blue. More of an alkaline pH, they'll be pink. Somewhere in the middle or in neutral, you can get a nice lavender color, but that most of the time is an accident. This plant grows and is supposed to bloom on old wood, the season's growth from last year. I can look at this stem here. I'll cut it back partially and notice that it's still green inside. I won't take it back any farther than that as green, so that these buds on the bottom right here will shoot out new wood. This is one of the problems with the Endless Summers or Twist and Shout, the macrophyllias. They don't always bloom on last year's wood because of our harsh winters. If the winter is nasty and the plant is not protected, the new growth or the top growth is going to be killed off by the temperatures. Therefore, just like we did with the Annabelles, by cutting it back to a node on healthy living wood, you will send up new shoots, and it will bloom at the same time as your Annabelles did. you're not going to get the early blooms that they say you should get in June and the beginning of July, but it's going to be more of a late summer, early fall bloom. So if you like the colored blooms, go ahead and plant them. If you are expecting something to have a longer blooming period, I would suggest checking out some of the new miniatures in the paniculata varieties, such as one of my favorites, Bobo, and it's getting the best reviews in the horticulture world as a tried and true bloomer and a strong shrub. So I'm going to trim this back, clean it up a little bit. Again, I'm going to clean out the crown. Notice there's a lot of debris that is caught in there. And then we'll talk about the last hydrangea in my garden, the climbing hydrangea. And here we have a hydrangea that most people don't think of as a hydrangea. This is the climbing hydrangea. The one thing I want to remind people about this plant is it is self-suckering. It adheres itself to whatever it's going to be climbing up of. You'll notice that this one is latched onto this mason wall without any problems whatsoever. This plant has to reach an age of 7 years in order for it to bloom. So you have to be patient. It's another one of those plants where you have to wait for the reward of its fragrant, beautiful white blooms. This is one plant that's been here now for about 6 years. I'm hoping that we'll get some blooms out of it pretty soon. But in the meantime, it is a wall of beautiful dark green foliage that just extends the look of your garden to make it seem endless. One thing you do have to watch out with this variety is they do climb 30 to 50 feet. And when a situation like this, you can almost see where it's working itself underneath the flashing. I'll come up here in another day or so when it fits into my schedule and snip the growth off the flashing and from underneath the flashing. By doing this also, I'm encouraging it to set more branching on the lower part of the plant. So this wall will be filled a little bit more intensely than it is now, which later in the summer you'll see it is just awesome. It is so gorgeous. I like to warn people though, when you have this type of a plant, not just this hydrangea, climbing hydrangea, but even English ivy or Engelmann ivy, Virginia creeper, that all have this suckering system that attaches to a wall. If it's growing on wood, it will in time cause rot. So be careful what you're growing it on. You don't want to ruin your siding. Don't plant this kind of vine on the side of your house. Leave it for a trellis or an arbor where it'll do just as well and it'll be easier to maintain. So that is my time with you today, talking about these beautiful shrubs. I hope that you add some new ones to your garden. They're expanding the varieties every day and making it easy to find the perfect hydrangea for the situation that you're looking for. They start blooming early in the summer, go throughout the fall, and make wonderful dry flowers. Cut them in the fall, hang them to dry, and use them for winter holiday decorations. Thanks again for joining me in the garden. I'll see you soon. Bye.